Marcos, thank you very much indeed, and thank you for those kind words about GMF, but also to remind you that actually this is the 75th anniversary of the Marshall Plan, which was so important to the post-war reconstruction of many countries, not least Greece, actually, and our 50th at GMF. But that actually points us in the direction of something which I think is very, very relevant to our discussion, which is that if you think about what was, the essence of the Marshall Plan experience, it was really three things: that it was at scale, that it was transatlantic, and that it had a strategic purpose. And I think when you look at the kind of challenges that we've been talking about this morning and are talking about now, those kinds of responses are just as relevant, and they're transatlantic. I mean, maybe just 3 points briefly for you. The first is that I think we're not talking about a set of immediate crises that are going to go away anytime soon. We're in the situation today with Russia and as a result of the Ukraine war, but other things that are durable, they're structural for this region and for Euro-Atlantic partners. That has many implications which we can talk about. I'll mention just one, which is that there is an accumulated risk there. I mean, even if we're not talking about deliberate escalation, and we could be thinking about Russia, but we could also be thinking about tensions in the Aegean. Even if that's not the intent, as months, years go by, the accumulated risk of something simply going wrong is not small. Military accidents that escalate, and they don't all have to be around Ukraine. They could be not just in the Black Sea, but in Syria or in Libya. They could be elsewhere, even sub-Saharan Africa, where the Wagner Group and other activities. Anyway, places where Russia and the West come into contact where things can go wrong. And that's a durable risk. The second point I'd make is about energy, to go back to the discussion you've had a number of times. Just a simple point. I think, will there be wars over energy in this region? I think not. Could energy be used as a pretext for other sovereignty goals and to make other kinds of points? Certainly it could. But if you want to think about how to have more bankable projects in this sphere, it's all about regional cooperation. It's about interconnectors. I mean, if you could actually have a functioning détente between Turkey and Greece again, this would make all the difference for reasons that we could talk about. On this, it's notable that for both countries, the tourism economy dwarfs the energy economy. And if that's not a stake in stability, I'm not sure what is, because tourism doesn't survive instability. The third final point I would make is about the transatlantic context. And I would say that on all of these fronts that we're mentioning in this session, certainly whether we're talking about energy, but also on migration, also on food security, the US is a stakeholder in this. I think there is a bit of mythology about the United States disengaging from the region. I frankly don't see very much evidence of that. Could it happen over the next years or decade as a result of distractions in the Asia-Pacific arena? Absolutely it could. But so far, the United States is fully vested here. It's vested in stability in the Aegean. We're vested in the migration issue, Minister, as you were talking about it, in many, many different ways as a matter of human security, but also politically. The kind of politics that could be driven by uncontrolled migration in Europe are certainly not favorable to American interests. Very few of the parties that want to use this, instrumentalize this issue, are Atlanticist by nature. And so it's very much in the American interest, regardless of the administration, I think, to help the European Union and others to have a sort of deliberate approach to migration, as you were talking about. And it's also not a short-term thing. It's structural. If you think about the prosperity divide between North and South across the Mediterranean, it's probably the starkest, the most dramatic anywhere in the world except the Korean Peninsula. That's a recipe for long-term structural economic migration. And if you add to all of that the kind of economic pressures we're seeing globally and also in this region, it seems to me it simply makes the risk even higher on all of these fronts. In Turkey, they talk about 75% inflation officially. It's probably closer to 100%. Those kinds of conditions don't necessarily encourage stable foreign and security policies. But I'm sure we'll talk more about that. So let me perhaps stop there. Thank you very much.